Over the Ford government's controversial Greenbelt land swap deal.
Something needs to be done.
I think there's a lot of feeling of betrayal.
Demonstrators protest at another PC member's office tonight, nearly a week after the Auditor General's scathing report alleging bias. Despite the pushback, we'll show you how the government says it's pushing ahead.
I do believe we can negotiate a good deal here that's fair for all the parties, and we're not going to walk away.
Plus, Ontario's education minister defiant as elementary teachers are set to vote on whether to take job action. The president of the teachers union joins us for a one-on-one interview.
And just people from all over the world partying in Toronto tonight.
And celebrating the Toronto spirit, we'll take you to tonight's blackout party. The light and generosity people are remembering after that epic power outage exactly 20 years ago plunged millions into darkness. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. We'll get to those stories in a moment, but first, some developing news from the Keele and Eglinton area where a house fire has left one person dead. Toronto's deputy fire chief spoke from the scene tonight and provided more details about what happened.
Firefighters were met with a working fire, a deep-seated fire in the house. We immediately conducted our primary search. And unfortunately, during our primary search, we did discover one person that we removed from the house, and that person has been pronounced deceased by the Toronto Paramedic Services.
Crews say the fire started in the basement of the home. It is now contained, but firefighters will remain at the scene all night to monitor for hotspots. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. Turning now to the heavily criticized report, the Ford government's Greenbelt land swap deal. It has been almost a week since that report from Ontario's Auditor General saying the process favored developers. The condemnation was swift and it has not died down. Tonight, a rally was held outside PC MPP Jill Dunlop's constituency office in Orillia.
There's no doubt about it. Affordable housing is a concern. But I am not convinced, and I don't think anybody who can think critically is convinced that any of those estate-size houses that are going to be built on the Greenbelt are going to do anything about affordable housing.
People here are really concerned about what's in their areas, their water, their farmland, their communities, and I think there's a lot of feeling of betrayal.
People coming out tonight to express their concerns around the process of opening up the Greenbelt to development, as well as the environmental impact. Still, despite days of pushback and protest, the government says it is moving ahead. Ali Chiasson has the very latest.
I support the government and I support the initiative to build at least 50,000 homes on the Greenbelt.
The largest section of Greenbelt land that's been slated for development is in Finance Minister Peter Bethlenfalvy's riding of Pickering, Ontario. Yesterday, protesters rallied outside of his constituency office demanding answers. Today, when asked whether he had ever met with developers about bulldozing it,
I haven't sat down with those developers in terms of talking about removing those lands.
He supports the Ford government forging on with plans to build homes in the Greenbelt and adopting 14 of the 15 Auditor General recommendations. The one they won't do is reconsider the land swap.
With 500,000 people coming to this province last year, and who knows what number that'll be this year, we have an absolute responsibility to the people of Ontario to continue to build houses.
Today, the Premier's office sent a memo to ministers, chief of staff and deputy ministers, reminding them to ensure that appropriate consultation, including with Indigenous leaders, is undertaken, and to properly document, quote, materials received by third parties, and to only use government emails for work-related matters.
They're going to have a fight, that's for sure.
Former Toronto mayor and member of Ontario's Greenbelt Council, David Crombie says the government may want to press on, but Greenbelt defenders are pushing back.
We're mobilizing public opinion. It's going to be something else, particularly in the early stages of September, because people are really offended by it. So there's lots of meetings, lots of rallies. We'll be taking out radio ads. We'll be taking out ads on billboards.
The Integrity Commissioner and the Ontario Provincial Police continue their simultaneous ethics and racketeering investigations into the Greenbelt dealings. At the same time, an organized group of environmental advocates are also considering legal action.
They're at this moment figuring out what's the best legal strategy over the next number of months to affect what we want to have done.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Now to a significant update. Just a few weeks away from the return to school for many Ontario children, public elementary teachers will be voting starting mid-September on whether or not to take job action. The union representing Ontario elementary teachers says they've been without a contract for almost a year, and the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario says it's seen insufficient progress. At the bargaining table, the union is accusing the government of refusing to meaningfully engage on things like supports with special needs, violence in schools, and keeping compensation at the rate of inflation. The education minister, meanwhile, says the union rejected private mediation, and his negotiators are committed to staying at the table until a deal is reached.
We met 22 times with QP in the fall, we got a deal, and here we are 100 plus times with the teacher unions. We don't have any deals, but I want to believe that there's creative pathways to get a deal that keeps kids in school. We've demonstrated as a government we can get good deals that respect our workers but keep kids in school, and our bottom line is stability for children.
Okay, so that's what the education minister is saying tonight. Let's get right to the union. And Karen Brown is ETFO's president. She's joining me now. Hi there, Karen. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, thanks for having me, Chris. The Minister of Education is a little confused. First of all, let's set the record straight. ETFO has never been offered private mediation, maybe other affiliates, but we have not had that offer at our table. We have been engaging with the government for the last year in regards to negotiations. And as you've seen, they've just been stalling, they've been delaying, and there has not been any meaningful a dialogue. And we've had about 30 meetings, and that's with two units. We have our vocational teacher unit and also our designated early childhood educators and professional support workers. So we're at two tables.
Well, and Karen, the other thing that the education minister was saying was that his side is bargaining in good faith and they're willing to stay at the table. But Stephen Lecce was accusing the union of creating anxiety for parents with this vote on job action, calling it unnecessary and unfair. How do you respond to that criticism?
Well, we put forth some reasonable proposals around special education funding, increasing that, ways to address violence within the classroom, reduction in class size, and compensation that's in relation to inflation and indexation. And so really the government has not responded to any of those issues. And so they're the ones that are not, are putting parents and putting students in this particular position. They need to come to the table with some meaningful dialogue and prepare to make some decisions and to really get a fair deal for our members. We're frustrated, we're tired, and we want stability as much as parents do. But the ball right now is in the government's hands. It's in their court.
And digging into the actual deal just for a second, the education minister said to us tonight that Ontario teachers are among the highest paid in the country, and that the deal that it's offering teachers is, from the education minister's perspective, fair. So I guess how far apart are the two sides? Like, how much are your negotiators asking for when it comes to compensation compared to how much the government is offering?
Yeah, what the government is offering is unreasonable in regards to their 1.4% increase. Ontario teachers are being, what we're asking for is comparable to what's in other provinces. We're not keeping in pace with inflation. Their salary, they have expenses, housing, cost of living. When we look at New Brunswick and we look at BC, we see governments there making a commitment to do that. This government has $22 billion in surplus. They have the funds for commitment to public education and to compensation. There has to be a will.
Okay, Karen, thank you so much for speaking with us on such a busy day. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. Take care.
Karen Brown is the union president for Ontario's public elementary teachers. Okay, and it's not just ETFO that is seeing growing frustration with negotiations with the Education Ministry. CBC Toronto obtained a memo tonight from the union representing secondary school teachers, saying it too is nearly ready to request a strike mandate from its members. In that memo, the union writes, "A strong strike mandate will demonstrate our unity and determination to achieve fair and favorable terms for our members and students." But the union went on to say it still has another bargaining date this upcoming Thursday. Turning now to one of the best parties in the city tonight, a picnic, parade, and candlelight party, all to remember a night 20 years ago when pretty much all we had was candlelight. On this date in 2003, that massive blackout thrust into darkness 55 million people, including Torontonians. The epic outage was seen as an example of people here coming together to make the most out of a bad situation. And Greg Ross takes us to tonight's party at Grange Park, where people were tripping down memory lane.
On the sunny side of the street.
Hundreds gathered in Grange Park tonight, there to celebrate the 20th anniversary of a moment they say showed what this city is all about.
When the blackout happened, it was like chaos in Toronto, and Toronto's true spirit came to the fore. Like, people were looking after each other, people were compassionate. And so we want to celebrate that and emphasize that in our community.
Michael Lewis Johnson is one of the organizers of the 2003 Blackout Anniversary Party. They've been gathering every year since it happened.
There's going to be music from all over the world and just people from all over the world partying in Toronto tonight.
A picnic, a parade, as well as a candlelight after party, and of course, plenty of memories from 2003 were shared.
I never realized how it would become such a memorable and important night.
Shamez Emlani owns La Palette restaurant on Queen Street West. With the power out, all of the food in his freezers and refrigerators was going to spoil. So he made the best of what could have been a bad situation.
I have a rickshaw. It's a giant tricycle, what they call a Bombay pedicab. So I loaded it up with all the meat that we weren't going to be able to serve that was going to go off, and went off to a friend's house to cook it all off and invite strangers to come and have a feast.
Similar scenarios were playing out all over the city, including Steve Kane's Queen West neighborhood, where the community banded together.
It really just turned into a big communal barbecue where somebody said, "Oh, I've got this." Other people said, "I've got some corn. I've got some hamburgers." Thank goodness it was the summertime, so the sun was up for a while. So that sort of the barbecue turned into a cocktail party and a few beers on everybody's decks.
Around 10 million people in Ontario lost power, and another 45 million in 8 U.S. states. The blackout grounded planes, stalled trains. In Toronto, streetcars and subways came to a halt. The people here say the city rose above all of those issues and came together.
We want to celebrate that spirit and help that spirit grow, help that to be part of the Toronto identity.
Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
What a where were you then moment for our city. And look at that, the power is still firmly on tonight. 21 degrees with some rain expected and possibly even a thunderstorm overnight. Colette Kennedy is here with a first look at the forecast. And Colette, we just couldn't post up a hat trick of nice days, hey?
Well, we managed to string 2 days together there, Chris, of sunshine and dry conditions, but here we go again. The next system moving in, it's already having an impact on southwestern Ontario and bringing that rainfall into the GTA as well as we head through the day on Tuesday. It is going to be a soggy one, but there will be certain areas where those rainfall amounts will be heightened, and I expect around Sarnia to be one of those areas just kind of north of Windsor, but that chance is there all the way across towards Hamilton and around the Niagara region, where you may see 30, 40, even 50 millimeters of rain. So for the GTA, the amounts will be a little lower, and I'll get into that coming up a little later in the show with more detail. But just knowing that this is coming in through the overnight hours, at times with some embedded thunderstorms through Tuesday, it will get heavier, plus the breeze coming from the north to northeast isn't going to feel great. So a total change to the day. Tomorrow, 18 the low tonight. We'll be lucky to hit 21, and there's a little indicator of what we'll likely see in Toronto, but I'll have more detail coming up.
All right, sounds good. We'll talk to you in a little bit. Over to Broadview and Danforth now, where construction is officially underway tonight for a streetcar track replacement project.
I think it's bogus. So this noise you're hearing in the background, listen to that, will be what people will be hearing in the morning, in the afternoon, coming home from work. It's a form of torture in a way, sleep deprivation.
Yikes, it sounds awful. The city says the intersection will see limited traffic until late August. Sidewalks remain open during the construction. This is the second phase of a $6.5 million city project that began in July. Crews are working on several outstanding construction projects in the area, including track replacement for noise reduction, road resurfacing, and sewer realignment. Drivers are being encouraged to find another route and allow extra time to get around all that. In Milton, a driver is in custody after a two-vehicle head-on crash this morning that left one person seriously injured. This all happened on the westbound lanes of the 401 near Guelph Line around 6 a.m. Police say one of the drivers was heading the wrong way, and the driver is now facing charges including dangerous driving, impaired driving, and having an excess blood alcohol level. The other driver was taken to hospital with serious injuries. Now, the lanes were shut down for about 6 hours before reopening today around noon. Hey, welcome back. A couple of weeks ago, many in our city were cheersing over a pilot program to allow drinking in many parks. But today, some are critical over what they see as a big problem with the way the program is being communicated. Talia Ricci has that story.
The city is letting people know they can have an alcoholic drink in this park in a big way.
It is a very huge sign post, and the writings are tiny, and
it's huge. Yeah, I feel like maybe they could have just put up a sign. You know how they put up signs for developments? I feel like that size would have just been enough.
The 6-foot by 4-foot sign with the giant words "Alcohol in Parks" is pretty hard to miss at Duffer and Grove Park. The sign also includes the rules in smaller print. It's meant to inform the public about the city's pilot project, which is allowing drinking in 27 city parks.
I think it is offensive to have such a thing.
A couple of city councilors agree, and they wrote a letter to city staff about it. They say they support the pilot, but the sign is out of proportion and appears to actually encourage people to drink with this giant "Alcohol in Parks" title.
We heard from so many residents that the Alcohol in Parks pilot signs were just so massive and actually disruptive. You know, some really big parks like Earls Court Park, where I held my movie night, the sign was in the middle of where all the families were. It seems unnecessary given that we have signage for smoking bylaw that are much more carefully placed.
The city says it's exploring an alternative design option and that new signage will begin to be installed in some pilot locations this week. Adding that feedback on what's working and what could be improved remains an important component of the temporary pilot program. But it is worth noting, not everyone is bothered by the signs.
The signs are very large. That's a thing, but I don't have a problem with them being very large. They're pointing out like a new fact to the public, and that's the point of signs.
It's like a pilot project, so you have to really catch the attention of the people here. It must be visible to the people, so the bigger the sign, the better.
The pilot runs until October 9th. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
All right, now up to Yorkdale, and the big mall is set to get a big makeover.
We are renovating approximately 100,000 square feet of the center area of our shopping center, and that area will now be all new luxury retailers, which are scheduled to start opening the end of 2024, the end of next year.
Oxford Properties Group says it'll spend $28 million to redevelop Yorkdale Mall's main corridor and food court. That includes adding some new luxury brand stores that have yet to hit the Canadian market, but the mall isn't saying which ones. That'll be unveiled later this year. In the meantime, current stores have relocated for the construction, and customers can expect sections of the mall to be closed off. Many tourist attractions, like our big malls, say this summer they're officially bouncing back from the slowdown caused by pandemic restrictions. Attractions Ontario conducted a survey of 36 of its members last month. 80% saw attendance higher or similar to last year. 40% of them said their visitor numbers were significantly higher. That includes the Toronto Zoo, which is reporting a surplus of $1.6 million in new net spending so far this year. We're back and right to Colette. And Colette, that beautiful weather we had today might be hard to remember tomorrow.
Yeah, it was a good way to get the week started, but you're right. Umbrellas, all kinds of, boots, whatever it is you need to stay dry tomorrow. I would grab it, have it ready, because don't head out the door without it tomorrow. That special weather statement, some of the areas like around Hamilton, Niagara to southwestern Ontario, like I was showing earlier in the show, may be seeing close to 50 millimeters of rainfall. Could be a little above that even towards Sarnia, but otherwise we're looking at lesser amounts through the GTA, and the temperatures on the cool side running roughly 5 degrees below seasonal for daytime highs. And then if we can get there, and we will, we're going to see the reward coming on Wednesday when the sun will be back out and the temperatures will just be pulling right back up to where they should be for this time of year as we're into mid-August. So yes, the rain into southwestern Ontario already, but through the overnight hours, it continues making its way towards the GTA. Heavier at times where we do have some thunderstorms, especially where those are embedded. You get localized, some heavier amounts of rainfall through the day on Tuesday. Cloud cover there too. Now in the late afternoon, I'd expect this to be improving back towards the Windsor area. It won't be till late evening for Toronto, and then through the overnight, just some isolated showers. And then there it is, that ridge building in for Wednesday, and the setup quite nice with a lot of sunshine there. So kind of taking us through the period, this model really pulling things down for Toronto. We'll see if it goes that low. You know what I'm thinking is that it's more going to be in that 10 to, in some cases, 20 millimeters. There's some of the heavier amounts. Likely this could go up even over 50 millimeters there, Sarnia. And look at those winds. So breezy in southwestern Ontario, and those breezy winds extend towards the west end of Lake Ontario too through the day. So that's another kind of unpleasant component to this in terms of what we'll deal with. Lucky to get to that 21, then Wednesday 26 with sunshine. Thursday, Chris, much of the day is likely going to be nice. It's into the later afternoon. We get that chance of showers or thunderstorms developing.
All right, Colette, thank you. So don't mow the lawn tomorrow, but imagine if you had to do it, doing it for 14 hours. 14 hours of mowing over 2 days, covering 500 laps. That is what these ambitious racers signed up for. 50 teams of 3 took part in the unusual race, and it may be the first you're hearing about it, but the British event is celebrating its 50th year. And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching.